Anthony Bear is famous for his experimentation on this channel. He's measured the ocean in a lift, lasered a globe in his garage, and even shown us how rivers apparently don't work on a globe. But recently he's gone big, very big. He wants to tell us that the universe itself is not possible. Hello all and welcome along to another video with me, Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Right, on with today's video then, and Anthony Bear. His video is called The North Star and Reality. Let's see exactly what he has to say, shall we?
Okay, let's talk about our universe and why I think it's not possible. The way it was explained to us as kids and still to this day. Okay, here's the Milky Way galaxy. And through a big bang, all these stars are flying around, smashing into each other. And finally, they all gravitated out.
That's not how the Big Bang worked at all. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space. It was an expansion of space itself. Matter didn't go blasting out like cosmic shrapnel either. Space itself expanded, carrying matter with it. And stars certainly weren't flying around smashing into each other. Stars didn't exist for hundreds of millions of years after the Big Bang. First, we had basic particles, then atoms, then gas clouds, and then stars, which started to form through gravitational collapse.
All these stars found their place spinning in an enormous circle that's trillions and trillions of miles apart, thousands and thousands of light years in diameter. And they're all just doing their thing. In the middle of the Milky Way galaxy, there's a black hole millions and millions of times bigger than the sun.
Stars didn't find their place. They were born from clouds of dust, orbiting within gravitational fields over billions of years. The distances involved are staggering, but they are measurable and consistent. And yes, there is a giant black hole in the middle of the Milky Way, and every single bit of data that confirms it also confirms the Earth is not flat.
And it's traveling through space at a whopping 1.3 million miles an hour. Here's a top fuel dragster. Wow! It's traveling way over 4,000 times faster than this dragster. Just to put it in perspective.
Yes, okay, but unlike a dragster, which accelerates rapidly and throws you back in your seat, the solar system's motion is smooth and vast, and completely in sync with everything around it. Earth, the atmosphere, the sun, all moving together.
And at the same time, through just random chance of particles smashing into particles and gas being attracted to water and water blasting together, our solar system was created.
Our solar system didn't form by random smashing or gas liking water. It formed by predictable, testable physics, a well understood and observable process called the Nebula Hypothesis, the same physics that lets us track planets and predict eclipses.
Most people don't know this, but not only is the Earth going around the sun, but the sun is hurtling through space at a whopping 500,000 miles an hour. Did you even catch that? That was a hypersled going Mach 8. So you imagine the sun is going 70 times faster than that, over Mach 500.
Totally pointless, by the way, to put the speed in Mach, as the speed of sound is irrelevant in space. This entire argument at the moment rests on fast equals unbelievable, which is a textbook argument from personal incredulity.
The Earth is corkscrewing at Mach 1.5, and it's also going around the sun at Mach 88, 10 times faster than this. So imagine you have all these multi-directional, crazy, insane speeds. Here's where the enormous problem comes in. Now, don't forget, the Earth is spinning on its axis of 23.4 degrees. Now, that's pointing away from the direction of travel of the sun. And right in line with the axis of the Earth is this North Star. And there's your smoking gun.
Okay, yes, we are moving in complex paths. That is orbital dynamics. Now, speed sounds dramatic in maths, but in physics, speed is smooth and predictable. And Polaris isn't proof of anything, by the way. It appears aligned with Earth's rotational axis. That's why it's called the pole star. But the thing is, it's not perfectly aligned. It's off by around 0.7 degrees due to axial precession. It's slowly shifting over time. 5,000 years ago, Polaris wasn't the North Star. Thuban was. 12,000 years from now, it'll be Vega. So it's not a smoking gun. It's a measured, predicted, well-documented wobble in Earth's orientation, known since the days of Hipparchus in 130 BC.
Okay, so in order to show you that the heliocentric system has a serious problem, we have to build a model.
Oh, and there it is, one of his famous models. Love it.
Okay, so here's our model, and here's the Earth, obviously, and we mounted a camera to the Earth. That's you standing on it. And here's the Milky Way galaxy. In the center is the black hole where the sun is shooting towards. And imagine the whole ceiling is the Milky Way galaxy. But we just got a little chunk of it here that we can control.
Now, a couple of things here, Anthony. One, why would you pick the viewer point on the equator? Sometimes you can't even see Polaris from there. You know, planet in the way and all that. Why not pick North America? Also, the Earth isn't shooting towards the black hole in the center of the Milky Way. It's orbiting it. So your direction of travel is wrong.
Now, here's the axis of the Earth, and there's the North Star. Because the axis points to the North Star, obviously. And now here in the center, we have the sun. And the sun is shooting upwards, or in this direction, towards the black hole. Now, before we show you this experiment, let's look at a real-life experiment. Okay, so here's the North Star. You can barely see it. I'm using my little camera. And it's easy to find because it never moves. It hasn't moved for thousands of years.
Incorrect, it has moved and it will again. Earth's spin causes it to wobble, something we call precession. It means Earth's axis points in different directions over time.
Now, I'm going to show you my scope. I have a scope here with the camera mounted to it. Now, there's the North Star right in the middle there. I'm going to turn it on in the upper left. You can watch it from the camera if you want. All right, so now, watch this. If I move the legs, if I move the camera an inch, the star will move an inch. Obviously, right? That means if the Earth moved an inch, then the star would move an inch.
What you're demonstrating here is parallax, the appeared shift in position of an object when the observer changes location. This works because you're moving relative to the fixed mount you have, and the scope shifts its angle of view. But that doesn't scale up to Earth's motion in space like you think it does. If the Earth really did move 1 inch, the angular change in Polaris's position would be far less than what your telescope could possibly detect. In fact, we only detect parallax shifts in relatively nearby stars over 6 months of Earth's orbit using precise astronomical instruments, not backyard tripods.
But the North Star never moves. Now, they're going to want you to believe that, well, the North Star is 5,500 times bigger than the Earth, so then it's not going to move. I just showed you that it'll move because, prospectively, it's a tiny little dot in the sky.
Now, you showed that if you physically move your telescope, Polaris moves in the viewfinder, which, yes, because parallax, as we discussed. But again, you're moving the observer, not demonstrating motion of Polaris or Earth's orbit. The idea that it should shift from night to night is a misunderstanding of distance, angle, and Earth's own steady rotation.
Okay, so here's our model. I'm going to show you why keeping the North Star lined up is not possible. All right, so I'm going to turn on my camera here. You'll be able to see it on your screen. Now, it'd be one thing if the Earth turned like this and the North Star turned, galaxy turned with it. That's not how it works. The Earth spins like this on its axis around the Earth. That's around the sun. That's how you get your seasons. So you can see where the complication comes in.
And once again, we get to the Achilles heel of all flat earther arguments: scale. In order for this setup to be correctly scaled, Anthony, your Polaris drawing would need to be placed 2/3 of the way to the sun. Now, if you did that and orbited your little Earth again, I'm pretty sure your red stick would stay on Polaris.
All right, so let's just go 3 months. So we're gonna go 3 months like this. Okay, you can see how it's not even close. Then we're gonna go 6 months. Now it's 186 million miles off because it's 93 million miles away. So we're gonna do another 3 months. You can see the North Star is not even close, and then we're gonna go back to where we started from. So you can see the way the Earth moves around the sun. It's impossible.
It's impossible on your grossly misscaled model, Anthony, yes, but not in reality.
The whole Milky Way galaxy would have to be gyrating on a 186 million mile undulation as it was going around in a circle. So you can see that's like retarded. Okay, another big problem. It's going 66,000 miles an hour this speed. And what if it goes 66,000, an eighth of a mile faster? It's going to speed up. It's going to speed up and not line up. It's the same thing on acceleration. You got the acceleration dynamic. It's going a 500,000 miles an hour. If it goes a 500,000 miles an hour and an eighth, and just anything off, it's going to not line up.
Okay, but orbits remain stable because the system is governed by conservation of momentum, gravitational equilibrium, and billions of years of stable motion. The Earth doesn't need to line up every time it orbits the Sun. Orbital stability is inherent in gravitational systems.
So you can see like the total impossibility of this whole thing. So real quick, the Earth going around the Sun, the axis pointing out in outer space would paint a circle. The whole Milky Way galaxy would have to follow that circle. This tiny little planet would control the whole galaxy? And the whole galaxy, there's no parallax. All the stars stay in the same formation all the time. They never move.
That is an absolutely awful statement, Anthony. Here is just one example. Barnard's star, moving against the background stars in just a matter of years. Dear, oh dear, Anthony.
So this little tiny Earth would control the whole Milky Way galaxy. That'd be the only way it would work. Whew. Dare I say it? Would that make us the center of the universe?
And there we have it. I knew this argument would come up, and you know why? Because it feels nice, doesn't it? To think that amongst all the stars and galaxies, you are the chosen focal point of it all. That is the same psychological comfort that led people to think that the sun revolved around Earth. But as you know, science isn't built on feelings. It's built on measurement and evidence, and the ability to predict phenomena. And every single one of those tells us the Earth is not the center of the universe. And I think that's where we're going to leave Anthony as little model for today. Let me know in the comments what you thought of his demonstration. As I say, we're all done and dusted for another one. Thanks so much for watching today. As ever, it's appreciated. If you enjoyed it, please do consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the thumbs up button too, and sharing if the feeling takes you as well. Thank you. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for 5 experiments that flat earthers always get wrong. See you then.